Awesome, dude. Thanks, man, for coming on. I appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this for a while. Not only you as a UFC fighter, but you as a Lao-American. I told you a bit about my relationship with the people from Laos. So been looking forward to this one for a while, man. Thanks for coming on.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me. That's pretty cool.
When
familiar with the culture.
Yeah. Eating some lap here now and then, and her mom makes sushi.
You like lap, huh? That's good. Man. You eat it spicy?
Oh yeah, spicy as it can get. I'm good with it.
Oh, wow.
As spicy as pit, right?
Yeah, it's pit.
Yeah.
D-lie.
I'm learning the language here and there. We're getting there.
That's great, man. That's great. It's good your girlfriend's teaching you.
Yeah. But when you hear the words sports psychology, mental side of sports, mental side of being an athlete, what's like really the first thing that comes to your mind?
Sports psychology, mental. To be honest, it's just like being strong, not just on the outside, but just being strong inside. Courage comes to my head. Courage, being strong. Just things like that. You know what I mean?
Was there a point in your career where it really started to click in, like how important the mental side of MMA is to being successful? Because obviously the physical piece, everybody can see that. Nobody can really see what's going on inside your mind.
I feel like my mind is pretty strong. It's got me to where I am right now. But even now, sometimes like it could play tricks on you, and that's happened to me at the highest level. When I did get there, your mind could play some tricks on you. And I'm still, till today, trying to learn how to maintain that and get into a good mindset and be confident and all that. But I think the key is just surrounding yourself with good people that believe in you. And I think that's what I'm doing right now. Yeah. And I'm not even thinking about any psychology or any mental thing. I just feel good. I'm happy where I'm at right now. I enjoy training again. And I just think that's very important.
I like how you brought that up, because a lot of pretty much 99% of them that I talk to, they always talk about how that support system around them is so important. And not only, it's not just limited to like your training, sparring partners, your coaches and whatnot, but more importantly, your friends and family. And I know you're super open with your family and how tight you guys are and everything, your wife and your kids and everything. So just talk to me a little bit about how they've kind of helped you out through your career. Pushing you maybe to places that you didn't think you can go, or just giving you that security blanket maybe.
Yeah, it definitely starts at home, man. It's the foundation, my wife, she supported me since day one, and my kids and my motivation, my inspiration to get up every day and do what I do. But it's the foundation, because, I've been through it all. Like when the foundation is strong, it just pushes you to drive harder and keeps your focus 100%. But when things aren't going well at home, shall I say, and I'm not focused, and you see that, and it does affect your performances. It does affect your training sometimes, Wish I could say I was perfect. Wish I could say my family was perfect, Yeah. It might look so on IG sometimes, but, like sometimes we're normal people. Me and my wife, we are very happy together. We like to show the world what we've been through and how we work as a team. But also, it's hard work, man. It's almost like every day we have to work on being nice to each other and being on the same page. We have to actually work on that. It's natural to an extent, but when you got all these responsibilities, you got kids, you got a job, you got what you want to do in the house. There's a lot of things that you can disagree on, and it's hard work trying to keep a good foundation. And I found, like, as long as you're just living a clean life and living an honest life, that's the best way to kind of keep a strong foundation. You know what I mean?
When you think about yourself in sports, and maybe specifically MMA, before you had a family and then after you had a family, is there any difference in you as an athlete, those two Andres?
Well, that's the thing. I've always had a family when I was training. I've always had my wife since day one. I've always had kids, so I was always a big brother, always working with my dad, training, things like that. Like I don't know how it is to be doing what I'm doing without a family.
I couldn't even imagine. Yeah. Somebody going through that all alone. Like, I think it's hard enough when you have your family and friends around you. Yeah. I really kind of tip my hat, I guess, to the athletes out there that they do it when they have nobody to support them, type of thing.
It's like, I wouldn't say no one would support them. You know what I mean? I think most people have that support, especially the successful ones that don't have a family, say that, you know, they're single, they don't have a girlfriend, just focus on what they do. So what happens is their family turns into the people in the gym, their coaches, their teammates. That's what becomes family to them, you know. And I wouldn't say it's easier, but they don't have that responsibility of balancing their life like I would. You know what I mean? Like, I got to balance the job sometimes. I got to balance my kids, time with my kids. I got to balance time with my wife. I got to balance training in the gym, you know, whereas a guy that doesn't have a family, he might have other things that he's balancing around, but, you know, you could take the wife out, you could take the kids out, and that's two already that he doesn't have to balance, you know? Yeah. So
there's obviously a lot of sacrifice that goes into it, because you got to kind of look at two sides of it. You either take away from your personal life to work on your athletic career, or you take away from your athletic career to work on your personal life. You got to get really good at time management and prioritization in order to keep both at a healthy balance.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's the key to success. That's the key to my success. You know what I mean? And I need to have a structure. I need to have a schedule, and I need to stay consistent with it. You know, I found there were times when, you know, I'm flopping around and I stay out of my structure, stay out of my schedule, then that's when that's when my whole day's thrown off. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, like, especially in fight camp, like, it's like it has to be on point, on time, every single day for like 3 months. You know what I mean? Yeah. It has to be the same exact thing. It's crazy, but it helps me. You know
Super crazy. Yeah. You brought up your dad a bit there, and listening to one of the videos you had on YouTube, I think it was an interview you did before, you were talking about, I think you grew up in Providence, right? Was it for a bit?
Yeah. And shout out to the 401.
There you go. And you talked about kind of the economic situation that you were brought up in, kind of living in the ghetto, I guess, right? And being surrounded by a lot of gangs, and then your dad really taking that role of keeping you off the streets and keeping you focused on whether it's athletics or schooling, whatever it was. Spend a couple of minutes with me here, just kind of telling me how briefly, because I know we could probably get into that for a couple hours there, describing all that, but just how generally that upbringing helped shape you to who you are today.
Man, I give my dad all the credit for really making me who I am, man. Like, my attitude, my never quit attitude, my work ethic, just he taught me a lot of things, even about respect, you know, like, just respect people. He always taught me not to judge people growing up, you know what I mean? And those core values always stuck by me, you know, and he always taught me to be a leader and not a follower. He just drilled that into my head, you know what I mean? Because it was so easy growing up as a kid and joining a gang and selling drugs. You know what I mean? I'm proud to say, and there's nothing wrong with it. Listen, you know, some people got to do what they got to do to get by. Some people got to hustle, you know what I mean? But I'm proud to say that I've never sold a drug before in my life, you know? And coming from where I'm from, that's like a 5% statistic, you know what I mean? Because like, that's all people do. They got to hustle, man. And it's not their fault. That's just the way, that's just the way the system is. It was me growing up, you know what I mean? Just a bunch of immigrants, and we was first generation in the country, and it was just kind of like, all right, so where do we go from here? And our parents didn't know any better. While they were working all day, we were basically home all day by ourselves. You know what I mean? It's not like today when we had daycare. Like, my kids they went to daycare. They have, you know what I'm saying? Like, if they're not in school, they're in daycare. They're in a summer program. Back then, it was just like, you know, if my parents are at work, then I'm getting a ride home from a friend or a family member, and then I get dropped off home. I'm home alone if I'm not at soccer practice or basketball practice. So it's easy to fall out of line there because, you know, you don't have your parents around. Yeah. I'm talking for myself. But a lot of my friends I grew up with too, like they're working, they're trying to make ends meet. You know what I mean? Working like 60 hours. So they're never really home, never really have time for you. So it's easy for me to go with a crowd. Hey, that crew, they're always hanging out at that park. They're slanging, they're gangbanging, they're smoking weed, they're cool, you know? And it's easy for me to be like, yo, I'm going to go and hang out with them and just hide it from my parents, because my parents would never knew if I did that anyways. But my dad, what he did, going back to my dad, he just instilled me in my head like, yo, be a leader, not a follower. So growing up, I never wanted to do what all the other kids were doing. I always wanted to do something different. He always told me I was a star. So I always wanted to shine in whatever I did, you know? And yeah, man, I give him a lot of credit for that.
I think when we think about like instilling these core values into people, the earlier you do it in somebody's life, the more effective it is. It's almost like learning a language. Kind of when you teach a kid a language when they're like 3 or 4 years old, they kind of grasp on it more, and it almost becomes like subconscious to them learning that language, rather than when you try and teach somebody a language when they're 25 or 30. Like if I tried to learn Lao when I was 5, I'd be a lot more fluent in it than I am at 27, right? And I got to imagine it's the same when it comes to sports psychology, in the sense of like your dad instilling the values of like courage and respect and hustling and work ethic and everything. For you to go through that at such a young age, maybe at that point in time, you didn't really understand the magnitude of it. But I'm sure looking back, I mean, those are priceless lessons that you learned from probably both your mom and your dad. And being shown that at such a young age was probably so impressionable to you that now this is just second nature to you, living that lifestyle.
Yeah, I agree, man. Like, and they kept at it. You know what I mean? It wasn't like they told me one day and they told me till I was up till I was 8 years old. No, my dad, my mom, they supported my sports till I was about 18, 19 years old. Yeah. Even when I was out there slanging and messing around and exploring, shall I say, you know, and not really focused on the sports, they would still support me because they believed in me, you know. And ever since I was a little kid, man, my mom and my dad just believed in me. Like, you know, when you see people on TV playing sports, and I always told my parents, I always told everybody, like, hey, I'm going to be the first athlete in Laos to do something. You know what I mean? To do something. First it was football, then it was soccer, then it was basketball, then it was soccer again because I was really serious about it. But it was really hard to see myself in the TV. You know what I mean? Because I saw no other really Asian people on TV like that. Mm-hmm. Asian Americans in Laos don't even talk about that. You know, they weren't even in the Olympics. Yeah. Growing up. So, but my dad and my mom were always just like, you can do it. You can do it. Anything's possible. Like, you can do it. You want to be on TV? You can do it. Well, when I told like other people that, or they would tell their friends that, they'd laugh. You know, they just kind of laugh, not insulting me, but just like, oh, haha, he's just dreaming. But the difference between like dreaming and making it a goal is I was working towards it every day. You know what I mean? And I was working towards it because my parents were on me. Like, yo, you want to play soccer? You better be going to practice every day. Yeah. You know, and that's kind of how my athletics started.
And I got to imagine that you growing up in that situation, having your parents be like this with you, just makes it 10 times easier for you to be like that with your own kids.
Yeah, it's it really is, you know, and you know, I give a lot of credit to my parents, but my dad, he always gave credit back to me, like because he was always just like, you know, I would tell you to do all these things, but I never really had to push you to do it. Yeah. You always wanted to do it. Like, I wouldn't have a ride to practice, right? I'm talking about soccer. I wouldn't have a ride to practice, but I would find one. I would ask my uncle. I would ask my cousin. I would ask my teammate. I would find the ride to practice. I was not missing practice. When I didn't have practice, I was at home practicing, you know, so that carried on to MMA, obviously. So I always had that attitude. So he always credited me back with, you know, hey, I never really had to push you. I just supported you. Mm-hmm. And my mom, she just supported anything I did. So I want to be the same with my kids, you know, like I don't want to push them to do anything. I do want them to find something that they love. That's something that they're passionate about. And whatever it is, as long as it's good, I am going to support it 100%.
100%, man.
100%.
That's beautiful. Yeah. For you, what was the moment where you fell in love with MMA? Obviously, I think MMA is one of those sports where people may be in it for the money and fame, but I think the high risk of injury and just how dangerous the sport is, if you don't really enjoy that process of fighting or just getting better at your craft, at mixed martial arts, I guess, you're not going to go very far. So what was the moment that you kind of fell in love with MMA?
I fell in love right after I tried the first class.
Yeah.
I tried my first class in MMA and I fell in love right away. This was 13 years ago, so this was before people was making any money at all. This was just like when UFC just started being on TV, when people started getting comfortable watching it. People were still uncomfortable watching people fight in the cage with all blood and stuff, right? But I was just like, after my first, even me, like I was just like, damn, how's my first class going to be? I'm picturing somebody's going to be elbowing me and trying to break my arms because I don't know any wrestling or anything. But, I was just like, I'm going to try it out. I went in there and it was totally opposite. It was very structured. It was very controlled. It was almost like school, man. Like I was going in there, I was learning something totally new. And I just fell in love with it after that first class. And after that first class, I knew what I wanted to do. I stopped everything. I literally stopped playing soccer. I would still play for fun, but I stopped all that after that one class.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I want to do this.
That's when you found your calling in life. When you put everything else on hold and you just focus on that one thing, that's when you've kind of made it. And probably at that point, it probably didn't even matter. I got to imagine how far you went into the sport. As long as you're doing the sport and you're just having fun every day. I mean, I think the money and the fame and everything is just kind of secondary, like I said before, as long as you're just enjoying the process every day. I know that's kind of the same thing for me with tennis. I'm kind of really big into tennis right now, and I don't care how many tournaments I play. I don't care how many games I win. As long as I play tennis, I'm having fun, and that's all I focus on.
That's the most important part, man. And it's really important that you check yourself or you have somebody check you, that when you do get onto a higher level, when you do start making some money, when you do get a little famous, that you get checked, because I fell into that trap, man. I fell into that trap. Like I started doing MMA because I wanted to make bigger paychecks. I wanted to buy a gold chain. I wanted to buy a fancy car, you know what I mean? And I wanted to be cool. But I fell into that trap when I was in the UFC. I'll admit it. And like, I'm glad that I'm learning from it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm glad I went through it. It's not that I didn't love what I did. I did, but I was also paying attention to the stuff that didn't really matter. You know what I mean? And it's easy to fall into that trap. So whoever watches this, you're a young fighter, man. Doesn't matter how good or skilled you are, man. Stay humble, stay grounded, and the money doesn't last forever. And there's not much money in MMA, so you better be doing it because you love it.
Yeah. How did you kind of snap out of that? You kind of were describing how you're kind of starting to swing into, focusing more on the money and the fame and the gold chains and everything. Was it your wife? Was it a training partner, a coach? Like, who kind of snapped you out of that?
I got cut from the UFC, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's trust me, I learned like throughout my whole 3 years in the UFC, like, I would go through that stages, and one of those stages was that. But I felt like, when I snapped out of it, I kind of like already lost like 2-3 fights, you know what I mean, in UFC, and I couldn't take it back. So I was already trying to rebuild myself, rebuild my mindset. And, when things are going good and going smooth, it goes up, right? But when things aren't going smooth, it gets a little rocky, and you might go down more than you go up. And that's kind of how my UFC career was, and once I got cut, that was just like that was like ultimate, like, whoa, like, okay, here I am again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I worked so hard to get there, and now all that doesn't matter,
Yeah. I know. I think listened to one of your past interviews where you said, you know, you're kind of using this as a time in your life to rebuild and hopefully get back to the bigger promotions. But when I think your last UFC fight was it August 2019 in China? Was that
Yeah.
sometime in there? Yeah. When you think of yourself, person, MMA fighter, just you as Andre, from August 2019 to today, was it October 2020? Where do you feel like you've kind of changed the most in your life, physically, mentally, emotionally? Because I gotta imagine it's been pretty much a year of rebuilding and recalibrating.
I think I'm not as emotional as I used to be. You know, I think that was probably one of the weaknesses I did have, that some of my opponents did see, that I did get emotional. If you said something to me, if you said something, anything, especially you talk about my family or something, I'm going to get emotional. So come fight night, I'm going to try and knock you out, or I'm going to get emotional. I'm going to have that in my head instead of just strictly business. You know what I mean? And I'm not emotional anymore. You know, like when it comes time for training, when it comes time for fighting, I'm not emotional. I get hit, it's all good. All right. You know what I mean? I've been working on that. Just fight IQ in general. Like whatever fight IQ is. I don't know what the fuck I'm sorry if I swear. I don't know
No,
what
you're good. You're good.
I don't know what the fuck fight IQ is. You know, I don't even know when people start saying that. But yeah, I've been working on my fight IQ, you know what I mean, with my coaches and my teammates and myself. Like if I got somebody hurt, I'm not just gonna jump in there and try to like knock them out, because everyone's tough in this sport. So I'm picking my shots a little more, you know, and just working on being a smarter fighter and not so emotional, you know. The reason I'm an exciting fighter, the reason I finish fights is because I'm an emotional fighter. You know, I use all that and I build it up inside and I let it explode. But that's not really good for your gas tank all the time. So I'm learning, man. I'm learning how to just treat it as business.
It's got to be so tough to kind of keep your emotions in check in MMA, because I think it's from kind of the foundation of MMA. It's such an emotional sport. I mean, I was just thinking there, comparing it, no disrespect to curling, but curling isn't usually the most emotional sport, because in MMA, once you get hit in the face, or even just standing in front of the person, looking them in the eyes, that kind of fight or flight response in your body kind of starts, right? And it's really hard to go along with that response and keep it in check. So I think from an outside perspective, people may not truly understand how hard it is to not take things like so emotionally, especially with personal attacks. I mean, you saw it with what was it, last weekend, the Adesanya Costa fight. I mean, that was so personal, right? And it clearly, I mean, when you look at the outcome of the fight, I think that personal and that emotional aspect to it really played its role.
Exactly.
I think that's such an important skill for not only athletes in MMA, but athletes in general to work on, is keeping your emotions in check. Because like you said, it can lead you to bad situations.
Exactly. And I'm working on it.
Yeah.
So I can't wait to, you know, show it and test myself to see if it's really working. You know?
I listened to another video that you put out on your YouTube channel where you talked about, must have been when you were growing up, but people telling you that there's no good Lao athletes out there because all they know how to do is party. Do you remember that quote? Do you remember when you were told that?
Yeah, I remember it, and that pushed me really hard. So I used to party too, man. Like I was 18. I moved out of my parents' house when I was 17, and I moved into a party house with all my boys. And they were all older. They were like 24, 25. So you can imagine the parties we threw. You know what
Especially
I mean?
as a 17-year-old. I mean, like you kind of want to, I got to imagine, fit in, right? Because you're 6-7 years.
I wasn't really trying to fit in because I was a cool guy anyway. You know what I mean? Even though I was young. But it was just, you know, I partied a lot. Every Thursday through Saturday, I was going out to the clubs or to a party or something. And I was still training MMA, you know what I mean? But I was young. I had big ego, and I had a lot of testosterone, so I was able to like party on the weekends and still train. You know what I mean? But this was before I took any fights or anything, you know, just training in general. And then this is when I first kind of started. And then I was at a party. My boy owned a bar, and one of my other boys was like, yeah, there's no good Lao athletes out there, man. I was just like, what? He's just like, man, so many people, they might come close, but it's just not going to happen. I'm like, why? It's like, oh, because, you know, a lot of people are, man, their mindset, they just want to party, they just want to gamble, they just want to drink, blah, blah, blah. And I just don't see it happening. I'm just, oh, okay. In my head, I'm just like, I'm going to be that guy, you know? And that kind of just set a fire under my ass and was just like, yo, I'm going to prove to everybody that not necessarily that I can do it, but that Lao people can do it too, man. You know what I mean? Because everything that we've been through, we got heart, you know what I mean? And yeah.
Yeah.
No reason why we can't compete with other countries in the world.
I know you've been really vocal on social media for the past couple of weeks. I saw really kind of pushing for some petitions. I think it was for like those mines or landmines.
Yeah.
How was it? So I think like I'm kind of doing some more research into that. I didn't realize how much of like a war ravaged country Laos was.
Oh man, yeah.
Crazy.
It's probably how your girlfriend ended up here. That's how I ended up here. That's how every first generation Lao-American ended up here. It's because of that, which is not a bad thing, you know. We got freedom and all that in America, but people still getting killed out there, you know what I mean? Unexploded ordnance. So what happened was like when America was in war with Vietnam, all those leftover bombs that they didn't want to drop at Vietnam, they just kind of used Laos as like a garbage can. Like, I'm just gonna drop these damn bombs in Laos. So they were just flying over Laos, dropping these extra bombs. You know what I mean? And they dropped a good number of bombs, man. Think of a bomb going off. This is the statistic: a bomb going off every 9 minutes, 24 hours a day, for 9 years straight. So that's how many bombs they dropped.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I'm pretty good at math, but I can't do that math. That seems like that seems like.
And I don't think it was a bomb. It was just like a plane of bombs, of bombs every 9 minutes, 24 hours a day, for 9 years. And there's still like 80 million bombs out there left. And if it gets set off, boom, it's going off. And there's kids playing in the fields. There's farmers, innocent people still getting killed. So I'm just trying my best to get the word out and help my people in Laos. You know what I mean?
You being the first Lao-American UFC fighter and probably one of the, you know, most better known Lao athletes probably just in history almost, because like you said, there's really no athletes from Laos. Yeah. Did that ever
got a couple now. Got a soccer player, Billy Ketgal. He's a very popular soccer player in France. We connect a lot. Nice. Got a lot of upcoming fighters, but yeah, just basically, I think me and him. If I'm missing anybody, I'm sorry, but yeah, that's all I can think of right now.
Is that how much is that something that you kind of embrace? Not embrace, that's the wrong word. Does that ever become a distraction to you? Is that something that you try and block out at times? Because I don't know if there's added pressure or added responsibility, kind of having that title as the first Lao-American UFC fighter. Or is it something that, because of your upbringing, how strong your mental game has been from the influence from your family, your dad specifically, and your wife and kids and mom, that's something that you're able to embrace in a healthy manner, I guess?
There's always going to be pressure when, you know, you're the first Lao UFC fighter, and, you know, there's always going to be people talking. There's always going to be people hating. But there's also a lot of people that support him. So what drives me is people that support me, you know, those fans that support me. And I embrace it, man. I'm very proud to say that I'm the first Lao-American UFC fighter. Like, that's in the history books. You know what I mean? And I'm not just saying that in a cocky way. I'm saying that, like, if I can do it, you can do it too. Doesn't matter if you're Laos, even people from other countries. Doesn't matter if you're from anywhere, but mostly Laos. Like, there's a Laos kid that wants to get into MMA. He can reach out to me, or I can tell him, He could watch this interview right now. Yo, it's possible. Doesn't matter if you're from Laos. So what? You can do it. I did it. You know what I mean? And that's really why I embrace it so much, because I can just inspire other, Lao kids growing up that are getting into any sport, especially combat sports. If you're doing boxing, if you're doing MMA, like, yo, it's possible. You want to be in the UFC? Go ahead. Be in the UFC. Just train your ass off. Work hard every day. And you can do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think another important point to consider too, to give people that hope almost so they can make it in their sport, is MMA wasn't something that you did your whole life, in the sense that you were playing, of course, like soccer and football, you said earlier on, but you probably, you started MMA when you were like, what, 16, 17, 18, like in your late
18. Yeah, 18. I was 18. So yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it's like I started when I was 18.
You're never too old to start really your passion for a sport, and don't let people say you can't do it just because you're 20 or 22 picking up a sport. I mean, there's countless experiences of people out there where they pick up a sport late, or they were like in the minor leagues for so long and they're late bloomers, right? Like, it's never too late as long as you keep pushing and you have your foundation in place, like you talked about at the beginning. If your foundation's in place and you got your daily routine, do that over and over and over again, eventually, I mean, you're going to hit your potential, and it's probably going to be a good one.
Yeah, man, that consistency just adds up, and most people nowadays, they want to see the rewards tomorrow. Like, oh, I signed up at an MMA gym. I've been training for a month. I got my purple belt. Okay, so did you start striking? No, but I want to be in UFC. Like these people, like, you're not going to see it's very rare that you're going to see the benefits, even if you're extremely talented. It's not going to happen tomorrow, man. It's going to take years and years and years. And people need to realize that, that it's not easy to get to where I got, man. It took me 10 damn years, 8 years, 10 years, man. So if you're willing to get on your knees, scrub toilets, work 3 jobs, sleep for 5 hours every day, and still train, like, okay, then do it. Do it. I believe in you, but it's not going to happen overnight, man. Yeah.
No, never happens overnight. Kind of leads me to how I like to wrap up these podcasts. I have a collection of sports psychology quotes. I have 23 of them. We won't go through 23, but I'll ask you to pick a number between 1 and 23, and then I'll read you the quote, and then just reflect on the quote a bit and tell me kind of what that quote means to you, or maybe a time in your life where the quote kind of really rings true in your head.
22.
22. This is a good one. This is from Bum Phillips. He's an old NFL coach from the 80s, the Houston Oilers. He said, "You fail all of the time, but you aren't a failure until you start blaming someone else."
That's a good one. That's a good one. Because I failed many times, and I always take credit for myself. I never make excuses, but it's true, because sometimes I do point the finger at the people closest to me. You know what I mean? That's not a good thing. No. But that's why I love my wife and my kids so much, because they understand what I do, and that I'm not perfect, and just like anybody else, up and down. So,
and I think it's understandable to react sometimes the way, like you said you were, and then people to kind of check you for that, or for you to look on back and be like, maybe I messed up there, because MMA is such an emotional sport, like we talked about, and when you're training for a fight, you might have what is it, 6 or 8 week camp usually is standard, I guess. And when you're having a camp, like, it's literally every minute of the day counts, whether it's training, whether it's cardio, whether it's food, whether it's the mental prep, every minute counts. So when you spend 8 weeks of your life and you dedicate every minute to a fight and it doesn't go your way, I think it's natural to react.
You just think back, like, why could it change? Why could it did different? And I'd be the first, man. I'm the realest guy out. I'm not gonna hide nothing. You know what I mean? I'm transparent to everything. So, yeah, that's a great quote. I'm glad I picked that number.
One of my favorite quotes, man. Listen, let's wrap it up here, man. It's been a lot of fun. I think really insightful, not only for me as a podcast host or a amateur athlete, I guess we can call it, but I think for a lot of athletes out there that are looking to make that next step and getting a kind of behind the scenes look at your life and how the mental side of things really shaped you and led to the success that you've had so far in your career and the success to come. So really appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, man, just keep pushing, like you fail, you lose, just keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, and keep going.
Yeah.
And hey, hard work's undeniable, you know what I mean?
Yeah, man. Awesome, dude. I think that's a beautiful, beautiful place to leave it off, dude. I really do appreciate your time, man. And don't know if you got a fight scheduled. I didn't think I saw you had one scheduled. I know you had one during COVID and that kind of got kibosh. So I'm hoping that you can get back in the ring soon, man, because you had some real heaters in that cage, and I can't wait to see the next one.
I'm staying ready. So
awesome, dude.
Whatever happens, happens. I'll be ready, though.
Awesome, man.